of the Europa League. They won both legs against Athletic. They advanced 7-1 on aggregate. All smiles at Old Trafford. Their Europa League campaign really has brought up some bright moments, much brighter than what we've been seeing in the Premier League for them so far. All right, we've got Frank Leboeuf and Jan Agerfjordtoft here with us to talk more about what we just saw tonight. But let me start with you, Steve, because I just do want to get to that point on some of the really good moments we've seen from Manchester United in this competition, this tonight being another one of them.
Well, eventually tonight, they did all the hard work in the first game. You know, the truth is, with Urigiza getting that goal, it kept us all on the edge of our seat and interested. And United, up until that goal from Mount in the 72nd minute, you didn't feel as though they were going to make a mess of it, but you just weren't quite sure. And then, of course, you saw Athletic drop the level and United just, well, they raised their level and finished up easy winners in the end. But as I said, they did all the hard work in the first game, but they did leave us just sitting on the edge of our seat a little bit for too long.
Yeah, and on the night, the reinforcements off the bench made a difference.
It did, and I must say the first touch of Mason Mount on his first goal, brilliant. So they did changes, they used their squad, and it's easy to criticize Manchester United, a giant that should just be lucky that there are newly promoted teams that are so bad that they can even be involved in the relegation battle. But we have to give them respect. This is a semi-final of the Europa League. As Stevie is saying, they did the hard work in Bilbao, but still 7-1 on aggregate. A tap-in from Haaland, can you believe that? He's a goal scorer, he's a goal getter. A tap-in, that's a goal a striker would love. And yes, I was sitting next to my dad who helped me with the analysis, as I had the most eyes on the Bodø/Glimt game as a Norwegian I am. And my dad was hammering them for 60 minutes. And then they said, yeah, that was a good win. That was a good win for us. But he was not happy the first hour. He was still nervous. And I think that summed up that Manchester United game.
The difference for Manchester United, hopefully, is going to be the resurrection of Mason Mount. Even I will never forgive him to come to sign for Manchester United. But as a human body, I just have to wish him the best.
Oh, there we go. So it ended on a high note in the end. Well, we better get to the other game because Spurs are through to the final as well. They are on their way. They're heading to Bilbao, 21st of May. They will be meeting Manchester United. But Jan, let's get to you because you said Bodø/Glimt were going to turn this around.
I did, absolutely. After that 3-1 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I thought there was a chance. You tell me there is a chance, but I was dumb and dumber myself. But I saw the game against Lazio, and they could have scored 5 or 6 against them. I've seen how a big advantage has been playing on the AstroTurf. You have to be honest about that. But I must say, this wasn't the greatest of games. You saw the possessions, Bodø/Glimt 67, Tottenham 33. I mean, that is some numbers, but it was there was never a chance that Bodø/Glimt will get that. I must say, I'm a bit impressed by Spurs. Not that they played a magnificent game, but they had the will to adjust. This game was more and more north. It was nearly up with Santa Claus, as I've said before. The AstroTurf was worse and worse, but they came there. They did a proper job from the first minute. They were disciplined. They did what they had to do, and absolutely deservedly in the final, Postecoglou. And he learned from the time he was there with Celtic, where they had big problems there. So, no, great respect for Tottenham. Although they will say you knock out Bodø/Glimt, but this is a team that always win at home and always score goals, and they did neither today.
Are you impressed with Spurs on the night getting it done, Stevie, sealing that win?
I wouldn't say I was impressed. I expected it. And again, a bit like United, until they scored, there was always a possibility. The thing that I was interested in more was what Jan was talking about, that Spurs did what they had to do. I mean, how many times have we said this about Postecoglou's teams? We never say it. I mean, he's always talking about, I'm never changing the way of play, and this is my philosophy, and this is how we're going to go about it. But in this competition, he absolutely has got the job done and done enough to make sure they win. What's happened to all that in the Premier League? Why can't he do that in the Premier League? They've got talent. They've got talented players. So how about you do it in the Premier League? Now listen, if he goes on and wins this, it might be too late, but if he does win it and they keep him, he needs to really think about what he did in this competition and take it into the Premier League and get more points that way.
Why do you think it has been so different, Frank?
That's very surprising. You know, we can say the same things about Manchester United. I mean, we are talking about the 15th and the 16th in the league, in the Premier League, but they were capable of doing the job in Europa League. I mean, Manchester United have been undefeated in that competition, so it doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe they've been lucky, but maybe, as the guy alluded, they adjusted on the team they were playing against, and Spurs showed it today. I don't know. I wouldn't say that the Europa League is less not interesting, but it would be weaker than the Premier League. I don't think so. The teams are good. Some teams are very good, but they did what they had to do. Maybe they've been lucky with the draw, and but they've done it and they've done the job. It's going to be funny to see which team is going to be the less. The one who doesn't adjust to the other in the final. That's what it is. Because we don't expect anything. I mean, we saw for 60, 70 minutes Manchester United being nowhere near it at Old Trafford in a semi-final of the Europa League. We saw so many times Spurs struggling, you know, in some games. But they managed to do it. So credit to them. And if you are in the final, it's not randomly that you're in the final. So again, credit to them. But I don't know if it's going to be an interesting final. Maybe the worst of the worst. We'll see that.
Oh, well, it is, as Frank mentioned,
Frank.
an all-Premier League affair in the Basque Country for the final as Spurs take on Manchester United. Manchester United favourites coming into this final. But I want to get the thoughts of you guys. Obviously, it is a hard one to pick, considering the season that both of these sides have had. But who edges it for you, Jan?
Well, what a drama. I mean, I should be a Hollywood voice here saying, what a drama at Colosseum. The one who is losing will lose his job. So this is unbelievable. We are now two managers that can save the season. And last time I checked, only one of them can win. So this is a very, very open affair. I think Frank is right by how will adjust in the final. If Tottenham keep doing what they have done in some games, it was also in the first game against Bode, Stevie, they were more kind of adjusting to the opposition. So maybe that will give them a small advantage. I think this one is very, very hard to call. I think this is a very open. I won't go as far as Frank did and say we're going to kind of give the champion of the worst. I mean, the price is big. There is Champions League. There is so many up there. What I saw from Tottenham today, and I saw the performance of a Romero, these are, I mean, he is sometimes a bit crazy. We know that. He's involved in so many things. But when he's concentrating, playing his game, they are strong. Bode Glimt is a team, no standard by all means by Premier League, but this is a team that's always creating chances. They nearly didn't create chances today. And that's the Tottenham we need to see in a final, even against a Premier League opponent.
Did you give us an answer there, though, Jan? Who have you got?
Tottenham. I will go Tottenham.
Okay.
If I will do 55-45.
All right.
I can't really see past United, to be honest, because I think if you try and analyse the way these teams play and how they've played all season, you can't hang your hat on anything. You can't hang your hat on either of them defensively. Going forward, United struggle. I mean, you saw Garnacho's chance tonight, the way he tried to dink the goalkeeper, and it's just not his game. I'm going to go United because United have got players in their team who have been involved in Manchester United over the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they've won cups. They've got a couple of FA Cups in their back pocket. And Tottenham don't have that, in my opinion. Yeah, they might have Romero, who's got a World Cup. But in general, this United side, when it comes to cup finals, turn up. And so that's what I'm hanging my hat on, that they're going to turn up in the cup final. Because to try and figure out how they're going to go about it and how they're going to play is nigh on impossible. Because they're not consistent, either of the two of them. So I'm going to go United because I think they've got more players who recently have played in cup finals and who won.
Yes, obviously things are going well for them in this competition. Both sides have made the final, but as mentioned, it's a whole different story in the Premier League as we take a look at the bottom half of the table. They are next to each other in 15th and 16th on 39 and 38 points respectively. In fact, this week, Arsene Wenger has said that Europa League winners should not get into the Champions League next season. And when you see this and you think of what the Champions League is supposed to be, you can see the point that he's making, but do you agree with him, Frank?
Well, don't forget that Manchester United shouldn't have been qualified, and it's only because they won the FA Cup last season that they went to Europa League and they are in the final of the Europa League. So what can happen next season, I don't know. I kind of understand what Arsene Wenger is saying, and according to to what we see with the table, yeah, it's going to be hard for either Manchester United or Spurs to be in the Champions League next season. But again, they're going to recruit players, they're going to get hopefully better for them, and we'll see what's going to happen. But yeah, I don't know. Before, when before I started to play, and it was maybe Stevie era, the only team who were involved in the Champions League was the first of each team, and not the second and the third. So who deserve to be in the Champions League nowadays? Can you imagine that maybe half of the Premier League will be in European Cup next season? Half, 8 or 9 clubs. That's crazy.
Jan, what do you think of what Wenger had to say?
No, very good point. The FA Cup win gives them Champions League. The Europa League win gives them Champions League. And if they win the Champions League, get to the Super Cup, and then they get to the Club World Cup, Manchester United is in a good wave at the moment. I do understand what Wenger says. But first of all, this are the rules now. They do it to kind of attract the Europa League. So I can live with that. It's harder to see that it's called the Champions League. But if you're for the Champions League winning the second division, that doesn't help the brand, does it? And we come now to the funny end of the season when Arsenal been flying. Arsenal, no trophy, no final. And Tottenham, Manchester United, it's West Ham between them and the relegation teams, and they get into Champions League. I mean, you have to be a producer to understand that. You have to be a film producer to kind of get that into the saying. And don't tell the Arsenal fans, are you kind?
And it is a big weekend ahead because it is Barcelona setting the scene for the Clasico this weekend on Sunday. It's the fourth and final Clasico of the season between Barcelona and Real Madrid. Just 4 points between the two sides heading into it. And guess who is there for us in Barcelona? Dan Thomas and Craig Burley. Dan, how's he been as a travel companion?
I haven't seen much of him, so it's been perfect, to be honest. Well, I think it's an ideal world.
Well, things were going all right until I had to listen to about 15 minutes of the Europa League.
Hey, it's a big final. This Clasico really is a poor man's Europa League final.
Frank must have shares in the Europa League, saying it's as good as the Premier League. I mean, how can United and Tottenham be in the final, for God's sake? But there we go.
Right, come on, we haven't got long to do this. I need to go and warm up. Barcelona against Real Madrid, of course, so many talking points going into it. I suppose the main one, Craig, Barcelona knocked out, obviously, the Champions League. Not happy about it. They're kind of taking a leaf out of Real Madrid's book and being a bit crybaby-ish.
In what sense?
In the fact you've got them complaining about referees. Pedri came out and said there needs to be an investigation. The Barcelona board...
Is there something in the water in Spain? Because, to me, most of the big decisions, the referee either got correct on the field or they went to the VAR, the technology, and particularly with the Cuba-C challenge on Lautaro Martinez, for all the will in the world, it looked like a penalty. It did to the naked eye. And back in the day, it would have been. But it would have been a mistake. And when that defining angle cleared it up, and you saw... And listen, it was a good attempt at a challenge, but he came through Martinez's boot before he's played the ball. So it's a crystal clear penalty. So you can have no complaints if you're a Barca player. You can have no complaints if you are Hansi Flick. Now, I did think on the Acerbi goal, we never really got a definitive angle of the Gerard Martin, the stretching challenge. They wanted a foul. I haven't seen anything definitive. But at the end of the day, they had this game in the palm of their hands with minutes and seconds to go, and they were blasé and still rushing forward and doing all these kamikaze stuff, defending stuff that they did, and they got caught out for it.
How does the manner of the defeat affect Sunday, if at all?
Well, Hansi Flick, as we've discussed, seems to be a very good man manager in terms of picking players up. That's what he has to do. They have a league title to fight for. They have Real Madrid with a week's rest. So there's no excuses in that term and that sort of sense from them. Yeah, they've got their own problems defensively in particular, but they've had a week's rest. So there should be no need for Carlo Ancelotti to be on the sidelines giving Vinicius Jr. a kick up the backside saying, are you going to run? Kylian Mbappe, are you going to run? So he shouldn't have that issue. If he does, that's the big problem. From Barca's perspective, somehow they've got to brush themselves down with that disappointment and go out there and do what they probably are going to do, and is outplay Real Madrid and probably cut them apart, because how is this Real Madrid defence going to cope with this Barca front line that really, you know, scored 6 goals in a game that had, 13 goals, that semi-final? It was incredible. They didn't go out because of their goal scoring, they went out because of their defence. And can you really see Real Madrid stopping the Lamine Yamals and Rafinhas? I can't.
But the impetus is on Real Madrid. They have to win this game, don't they, to keep any hopes of winning La Liga alive?
The fact they're still in with a shout is amazing. They have been so poor in terms of the bulk of their performances. The manager has struggled to find the right recipe and balance, but somehow a win is going to take them, 1 point behind, with 3 games to go off the back of this. We're now in anything can happen territory when that happens. So that's all they can hold on to. They go out there, hopefully they're bigger players, the Vinicius, Mbappe, the Bellinghams, the Valverdes, all these guys somehow perform, have the match of their lives, and they're back in it, potentially. I think it's a difficult one to sell, though, bearing in mind what you and I and everybody else have seen from this Real Madrid side almost every week. Either every Saturday or every Sunday we say, it's going to be better this week, it's going to be better this week, and generally it has not.
Of course, we're here for the next few days. Steve McManaman's joining us, Ian Dark, Luis Garcia, Mario Suarez. All will be here to look ahead to our Clasico. Tomorrow, Kay, myself and Craig are cooking paella. What a treat for everyone who gets to taste that.
Oh, can't wait for that. Can't wait for that.
Don't bring any back with you, please.
Yes, we are putting the boys to work because there will be a Clasico special coming up on Saturday to look ahead to the big game. 11:30 Eastern, you can catch that on ESPN 2, and that should warm you up for the main event coming up on Sunday. It is El Clasico between Barcelona and Real Madrid. The title race is on in its closing stages in La Liga. Coverage begins at 9 a.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN. The match that's here for PSG against Arsenal. PSG punching their ticket to this year's Champions League final, beating Arsenal 2-1 on the night, 3-1 on aggregate. But not to worry, Arsenal coach Mikel Arteta has taken it on the chin and said that his team were the best in the competition. He said, I'm very proud of the players, 100%. I don't think there's been a better team than Arsenal in the competition from what I've seen, but we are out. This competition is about the boxes, and in both boxes are the strikers and the goalkeepers, and theirs were the best in both games. Craig's still with us here. It's a bit contradictory in itself, that quote, Craig, so I'm just interested to know what you thought of it.
Well, I saw that last night just before I got on the flight to come here, and I was like, this guy just can't help himself. It's absolutely bonkers. I mean, they're out. They've not been the best team in this competition. They've played their best football in this competition, but their best football has not been great. That's why Stevie's Liverpool has won the league basically on one leg at the end. They have played some decent football in this competition, but they haven't been the best. They're not in the final. They got knocked out in the semi-final. Did they watch PSG take Liverpool apart over 2 games? Did you watch this magnificent semi-final with 13 goals in it, Inter Milan against Barcelona? He's like a character from The Office, isn't he? He just comes out with these ridiculous comments, a bit like the Amazon documentary he did when he had the light bulb and he said, this light bulb doesn't work if it's not connected. No way. Who would have thought that? You could almost see the players sniggering in the background. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You made a good fist of it. You had some injuries, you missed some chances, things could have gone differently, but PSG are a better side and you're out. And I think 2 words that have been brandished about towards the end of this season, towards some of the Arsenal players and towards 1 or 2 others maybe outside Arsenal, stay humble. and Mikel Arteta certainly wasn't that in defeat.
Jan?
Well, as we Norwegians said, stay humble. I mean, that was done in Norway, that quote. It's interesting with Arteta, because you don't know, he's doing everything right, but that's all he do. That's all. There's something wrong there, because you can't say things like that, because sport, and we all know that, sport is brutal. There is no place to hide. There is no place to hide. There is none outside the Arsenal camp that will call up Arteta and say, you're right, well done, you were the best team, you're going home, but you are the best team. I mean, I think this is a term of frustration. I think this is that he sees an Arsenal team that has not developed. They have gone backwards this season. They're not closer to win the Premier League. When Manchester City had that gap year in their football history, Liverpool came on. Liverpool winning the league, Arsenal not there. They're doing the Guard of Honors on Sunday. That's the fact of Arsenal Football Club. This is a frustration. I see this as a statement of frustration. And maybe Arteta should take some more time then before he makes those statements. It was like, even worse, it was like, yeah, we were the better team, but they had a great goalkeeper. Well, yeah, it's allowed to have a great goalkeeper, but it's not allowed to not have a great striker.
Raya made, and unless my memory's gone, Raya made some incredible saves in the 2 games as well. He just talks too much. You know, at the end of the day, your team should do your talking for you on the field. And anybody who knows a little bit about football will see what you're doing with your team. And what he's doing isn't quite good enough. It's good. They've played well. They play some nice football. They got some good players. They got some stars. But you've got to win games. It's about winning games. And he's talking about the best. I actually did some digging. Can you believe it? And all the categories, whichever category you want to look at over the Champions League, neither Arsenal or any of his players individually are at the top of anything, any stat. None, zero. So, yeah, just let your team do the talking for you and just keep your mouth closed.
Yep, so the stats don't back it up. But let's hear what Luis Enrique had to say when it was put to him what Arteta had said. He said, Mikel Arteta is a great friend, but I don't agree at all. They played in a clever way and they got the match to the right moment for them because they played in the way they wanted and the way they love. But in the 2 legs, we scored more than them, and that is the most important thing in football. It's hard to argue with that, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, he got the 2 wins in 2 games. You know, what else you can say? And according to Mikel Arteta, the two teams, Inter Milan and Paris Saint-Germain, shouldn't be in the final because their 2 MVPs were the 2 goalkeepers, Jan Sommer and Donnarumma. So it doesn't make any sense. My question is, who wants him? Who does he want to convince? Because he's not in danger, so he doesn't want to convince the board. The fans, they see what happened. The players, they know what happened. So I guess he only wants to convince himself that he did the best, and that's the only thing, because he cannot convince anybody else. We saw the games. Yes, Arsenal is a good team, but they missed their chances, and at the end of the year, they're not going to get anything. And they should have scored goals. And as Ian said, you know, we all said even before the season, Arsenal don't have a striker. They need a striker. They missed the chances. It's Mikel Arteta's fault. Pick a striker. Get a striker. It would have been a different season. So the failure came from him because of no choices.
Craig, last night the guys were critical of Martin Odegaard. Go on ahead.
No, I was going to. Yeah, well, I know I've talked about Martin Odegaard having to step up in recent weeks, and he has not. He has not, if we're being honest. But this is just becoming tiresome now. You know, at the end of the day, nobody's interested in what your XG is after a game. Nobody. Maybe 1 or 2 boffins want to roll it out, and I get that. It's a stat that can tell you somewhat of a story, but it doesn't tell you the whole story. And it's not that little, you know, that little thing at the top of the screen with the scoreline, which is the most important thing. So I'm absolutely fed up of this Arsenal side, who there's a lot to like about them, because they are a side that he's built into. To be fair to him, he's built a side that's missing a piece or two, that's challenging in the Champions League and has challenged and should be challenged in the Premier League. But I think everybody's getting fed up of the referees, the PGMOL, you know, the injuries, you know, everything's against us, the bookings early in the season. Why did Declan Rice get booked for that? And Joe Bloggs at Wolves didn't get booked for that. At the end of the day, he's going to be judged on trophies and on results, not on some stat that tells you how they created any amount of chances in the box. And Stevie's right. He should just come out and say, you know what? I want to keep this brief, lads. We gave it our best shot. We actually made a good fist of it, created a lot of chances. It wasn't our night, and we need to address that and move on. Congratulations, PSG. It was graceless, it was classless, and quite frankly, he's going to have to learn from it, because if we're in this situation next year and the following year where the trophy cabinet is still empty and they're spending 100 million on the Declan Rices and on 100 million on a striker, whoever it may be, then Mikel Arteta, for all this good work that he's done, will not be in that job. And he can spout out any XG he wants when he leaves. It's not going to save him in the hot seat. So he's going to have to figure that out. And those comments he made are just been stitched together with a bunch of other stuff they've said this season, and Liverpool must have been laughing their socks off, because they rolled their sleeves up in the first 6 months of the season and they did the hard work, they did the dirty work, they did the hard yards, and Arsenal couldn't cope. And that was the big problem for them. They were chasing their tail since that time. And let's not forget as well, they got knocked out of all the domestic cup competitions. Manchester United, who are ironically in the Europa League Final you were talking about. Manchester United, who were having, at that point, I think, the worst time of their season under Amorim, knocked him out at the Emirates. Go look at yourself in the mirror and say, why were we not in the FA Cup Final? Why were we not in the Carabao Cup Final? Why were we X amount of points off Liverpool in the league? When Arsenal start looking in and Mikel Arteta starts looking in, maybe they'll have a bit more success at the end of the season next year.
Yeah, and obviously time will tell. But just to stick on Martin Odegaard with you, if I can, Jan, what the guys were saying last night is that maybe he kept it too simple and didn't take enough risks. Do you think that would be a fair criticism of his game last night?
I think it is, Kay. And I followed Martin's career since he was 15. And when Martin has those spells, he's starting playing too easy, backwards, sideways. And you can see that. It's not the greatest confidence is in there now. Remember, it was on its top. He was involved, goal involvement, sensational. And you can see now that he is also mirroring the insecurity in the whole Arsenal team right now. Sometimes he's been the guy who got him out of that spell, but he's not at the moment as a captain. And you have to live with that. He's the captain of Arsenal Football Club. He has built up his own expectation by all the goal involvements. And next to him is a Declan Rice, who has done well. He will be compared with him and all those kind of things. And so Martin got to raise his game. And he has to do that because we're playing Italy 6th of June at home in Oslo. So he better be back at his best then.
How does Arteta get him back to his best? I'll get him to be more
Kay, 1 second. Kay.
Go
Hello.
ahead, Craig.
Maybe Jan, that's why Real Madrid let him go. Maybe he was a bit lightweight.
Yeah,
maybe we've seen the best in Martin Odegaard. Maybe Martin Odegaard can't do it at the real high level, and maybe that's why Real Madrid said, no, wait, you're not.
I think you're unfair there, Craig. I mean, he has a spell doing that now. He's been good for the last couple of seasons. I see that, and I see what you're saying. But he has had a fantastic period at Arsenal. Deservedly, the Arsenal captain, been doing being the leader. So I think that is unfair. But he has a bad spell now. I think we all can agree on that.
No, he's having a bad spell, but there's a big question whether he has what it takes in the real big games, like the superstar players have, like the ones at Real Madrid, Barca, and others, to really push them over the line. It's all very well looking like a flash Harry when you're playing Southampton and West Ham and Crystal Palace, but it's about doing it when you're supposed to be at his stature. It's about doing it in the real big moments. And that's where Arsenal have faltered. And I think, if we're being honest, at times that's where Martin Odegaard has faltered. So I get it. He's a pretty player. He's a good player. He's technically very good. But is he going to take Arsenal really to that next level? Is he going to take himself to that next level in the real big games? I think there's a big question there still.
Can I take
a year ago, Arsenal Football Club was one Ortega save away from winning the Premier League, and Martin Odegaard was their leader. So I think that makes a bit simple analysis, but fair enough. He is the Arsenal captain. He has to live by those expectations. I see that, absolutely.
So can Arteta be blamed for his top
Well, it's not. One second. It's not simple analysis. It's analysis, not simple analysis. It's analysis. Is he showing up in the real big moments? Yes or no? I don't care what he does for Norway. Right, well, what's he doing for Arsenal in the real big games? I don't think that's a simple analysis. It's an analysis of Martin Odegaard.
I'm not saying that I didn't talk about Norway, what he did for Norway. Just say last season they took Manchester City all the way, and he was very central for them at that time, and he always turned up also in the big games. That's what I think.
And they didn't win. And they didn't go over the line, and that's the big question still. They did not go over the line.
There is one thing that would help Odegaard, playing with a proper centre-forward. You know, Martin Odegaard, to me, is trying to play balls in behind from the wide areas. You want Martin Odegaard in the middle of the field with options to go left, right, or to pick somebody out and who's playing centre-forward. He's never had that. You know, even when Jesus came with the, I'm not a centre-forward. And then you get Havertz. Now you've got a midfielder, whether it's Trossard or anybody else, going through the middle. So Martin Odegaard, in that respect, is being put under severe pressure to come up with something with a player who's not really a centre forward, where he does his best damage. So that is unfair on Odegaard. At the same time, he does have to do better. He does have to do better, and Arteta will have to keep pumping him up, keep giving him confidence. But at the end of the day, Martin Odegaard is the one that's going to have to push himself forward and get his confidence back himself.
They're at Anfield on Sunday. Frank, how's that going to go?
Well, I think it's a question of pride, and I really think that Liverpool would try to show to the world that they deserve to be there, and they already deserve it, and there is no question about that. But yeah, again, you know, you don't want to lose against the one who's been the second contender, and they're gonna. I think they have to show it to the world, because what they showed against Chelsea wasn't at their level.
Craig, it could get worse if they don't finish second.
Why?
Well, would they be expected to finish second on a season like this when Manchester City have had
Who cares if they finish second, third or fourth? Who cares? Who cares? I mean, who remembers the runner? Tell me the runner-up at the Olympics in 19 whatever. You know, who cares? It's about winning the title. I mean, second or third, they can go and cry in the dressing room if they finish fourth, but does anybody really care? I mean, they've been panicking about this top five, but in truth, does it really matter at the end of the year? You go in the dressing room, you haven't won the league, and you say, well, second was great, third was great, or fourth was great. Maybe fourth is great if you're an Aston Villa or a Nottingham Forest or something like that, but not if you're Arsenal. So I really, you know, if they want to if they're still worried about cementing top five, I get it. If they're having a panic up about that, fair enough. But finishing second or third, where you finish in that horse race, nobody gives a stuff.
Come the end of the season.
It's a real good point, because I remember playing for Olympique Marseille after leaving Chelsea, and I thought that we finished second, and I forgot that we finished third, you know, so that's not important, because even me, I forgot. So
it doesn't matter, Jan. Will there be any questions at all asked of Mikel Arteta come the end of the season after a season like this?
Not questions, but it's interesting what Arsenal is all about. And if you have a look at Arsenal since Arteta came there, I think he's trying to do the right things. He has obviously learned a lot from Pep. Sometimes you feel he's always repeating when Pep didn't develop. When he is with no striker policy, it's like he was before Pep wanted Kane, and then he got Erling Haaland. He is like doing those kind of mistakes, and I feel sometimes as Arteta feel a bit in the shadow of Pep all the time. And I think that's why he comes up with all these kind of statements that I think it's all, I think Frank did a great point there. He's trying to convince himself. He's not sure. So he has to tell, nobody else tells him that. So he has to tell himself. And I think that is the big problem for them. Will it be that he will be fired? Will it be taken away? No, but we can start doing a bit criticism because they're spending a lot of money. You expect them to get better and better, closer and closer to the top. And wow, I mean, it's a cliche, but how can you be third in a 2-horse race? And Arsenal can be that this season. And I get the one with the silver medals and the bronze medals that you don't have in the Premier League.
Craig, you get the final say.
No, I mean, I thought coming to Spain would put me in a good mood, but it's clearly not. So it just sort of made me turn me
That's a jet lag. That's a jet lag, Craig,
angry version of me.
I think look,
there's no doubt. No, we're going to go and discuss Martin Odegaard with a beer. Yeah, and don't worry about it. I don't think there's any doubt. There has been progression. There has been progression at Arsenal. He has built a strong side, a very, very strong side. There are some pieces missing that if he doesn't fill those positions to take them from a very strong side to a winning team and give them something tangible, that's going to probably mean that he's going to be passed over to someone else to take it to the next step. But there can be no doubt what he's done there in this period is very, very good. But he does need to take it to the next level. Like Stevie's Liverpool teams of the 80s, they weren't just satisfied being a great side. It was about winning stuff, and it was about winning stuff year in, year out. If he can do that, he's going to be lauded by Arsenal fans. And he's actually not that far away from it. He's not that far away, but they need the proper recruitment in the summer, sign the right players, and go again. So I'll give him his due for that. But this season, I just haven't liked some of the rhetoric and the kind of excuse making as if it's been everybody else's fault, when I think they should have looked in, as they've had their pants well and truly taken down by Liverpool.
Craig, we're going to let you go and cheer yourself up in Barcelona. A lovely place to do so.
Gone for a beer. See you later.
It's mine.
There we go. Now, obviously, we have Team Haaland here with Jan Agerfjordov. Frank Lebov's here as well. But I do want to start with you, Stevie, because I want to ask about, when it's a successful side, the success that City have had, how hard it is to maintain that hunger and to keep that hunger up season after season.
You need a lot of things to be right. It's not just, you know, he's saying all the right things. I like all the stuff he's saying. You know, he's not making excuses. He's saying it how he feels it. He's saying all the right things. But in order to be successful over a long period of time, you need a lot of things to go right. And that includes the injuries. And if you add on to that the fact that you're bringing in a lot of young players, you look at the problems they had with the likes of Phil Foden. Who would have expected Phil Foden to have dropped off a cliff the way he did? But then you've got a lot of other players who were coming off international duty. So there were so many things going wrong for Man City that normally would go right. And then again, the one thing, probably the biggest thing for me, they got the recruitment wrong. That's the first time they've got that wrong in a long, long time. So too many things going wrong, but they're still going to end up in the Champions League. So, you know, it's not the worst. They've got an FA Cup final. But for them, absolutely, it's been a poor season.
How can Haaland improve his performance going forward from here, Jan? And does he need better service? And without Kevin De Bruyne, who's going to be giving him that service?
Good question. And you see on his stats, this is a terrible season for Erling Haaland. He has played, he's played in a team that is struggling. He's playing in a team where he never gets crosses. He plays in a team that never play on counter-attacks, that he has his strength, and still he managed to score 30 goals. I think both Erling and Stevie did a great analysis on this, because they both said the right things. And the hunger is one thing. I don't think they had a good preseason. I don't think their recruitment was good. I think Marmoush will be a good player for Erling, because he likes that. He doesn't like to play with a striker next to him, but he likes to have movement around him because he's so clever in his runs. But I think that you have to play more to his strength. And I think you will get players in. You were talking about Martin Ødegaard that need to play off a great striker. Remember Özil when he did all those assists for Real Madrid? It's a bit easier to make assists when Cristiano Ronaldo is your striker. So you need that mixture in your team. We know that the dream move is to get Florian Wirtz, but I don't think they will get him now. I got a feeling that they won't get him. But Erling Haaland, the good thing about being Norwegian, there are never championships that you have to play in the summer. So he came back fresh, and that's why he ended up 30 goals. But what I do like, if I may say at the end there, is that there is no excuses about injured players. The best player in the world didn't play all season. The best player in England, Phil Foden, played but didn't play. I mean, that's fact. And they have had injuries as well. But just a reminder, the last 9 Premier League games, City have won 7 and made 2 draws. And they're getting into the cup final. They will probably end up runner-up in the Premier League. There's a lot of English team wishing for a terrible season like that.
Yeah, so you've set me up perfectly for my final question there on it, Frank. They could finish second and they could win the FA Cup. Would it be such a bad season after all for City?
That would be a bad season because that's not the standard. That's not the standard we are expecting from Manchester City. That's the only point. The result, the statistic, they're going to be good at the end of the season because second, you can have enough season and you can win the FA Cup. So it's not too bad. But for Manchester City, we are talking about the best team in the world last year. Would drop off like crazy. But I was trying to find the names in the middle of the park. We used to serve Erling Haaland, and Ian started it with Rodri getting injured, Foden, Kevin De Bruyne not being the one he used to be, Gundogan not being the one he used to be, Silva not being the guy he used to be. Yes, when you have 4 guys who are not the guys they used to be, plus 1 injured, you have what I wouldn't say you deserve, but you have what you have to have because it's not going to be otherwise, and that's what it is with the season. But they managed, because on top of it we didn't talk about the defense, but they managed to maybe finish second and winning the FA Cup. That's kind of a miracle with what we've seen throughout the season, because that's not, again, the standard we normally see Manchester City having.
No, obviously you've got FA Cup coming up between Crystal Palace and Man City, the final on May 17th. Our coverage will begin at 10:30 Eastern right here on ESPN+. There from Anthony at the end. Betis are into the UEFA Conference League final to face Chelsea. And Anthony, what a story he has had with Real Betis this season. Did you see this coming, Jan?
Anthony? No, I didn't see him come back on a football pitch. We have to be honest. We can't say that, wow, yeah, we knew that. When he got in the new environment, he will look like Lionel Messi. That is no chance. I think every time I see something from Betis, every time I'm on, I see a fantastic goal from him. But respect to the lad, couldn't have a lot of confidence at Manchester United, cost an awful lot of money, looked terrible, his body language was terrible, and now he looks like a Ballon d'Or winner. So all the respect to the young lad.
Into the final we go. These are the odds for it. Chelsea are favourites to win it. Do you think they can do it, Frank, your old team?
Well, we'll see again. It's a final. I remember playing against Real Betis in the Cup Winners' Cup game, and that was one of my best favorite souvenir memories because it was a hell of a game in the second leg against Betis away from home. I just try to convince myself that it's going to be a lucky number, and having won against Betis and going through against Betis may be the same thing within the final against them, but it's going to be hard. I mean, we know Chelsea, the inconsistency of that team. They can do something incredible, and they can do the worst of the worst as well. And Real Betis seems to be more consistent than Chelsea and a little bit more experienced. But I want to believe that the Blues can do it, and I wish them the best. Yeah,
nice final for the UEFA Conference League. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. We have Stevie, Frank and Jan answering your questions today. Thank you so much for sending them in. Let's start with one on the Europa League. Overall, do you guys think the Europa League was a better competition this year without some of the Champions League teams dropping down during the knockout stages of the tournament? Jan?
Well, I've decided not to be an old bitter man, or Craig Burley, as we can also call me. But I would like to say that I like new ideas. I like the new format of Champions League. I like that the Europa League was done for these teams. Not having the Champions League is too complicated. Let's battle that out. And I know Arsene Wenger has started a discussion now, should they have that reward? But the reward is there to make this Europa League more attractive. Yes, I find that fine. We have a good final now between two English teams. We have a great final. Two English teams with a Colosseum kind of final. One of them have to go. One of them will be up or down.
Oh, up or down. Look at what you're not having it, Frank.
No, I mean, I don't even believe that Jan believes on what he just said, you know. I mean, of course it's not the better competition. Of course it's not, because you have no teams coming from the Champions League to make it better. And we have the result of that. I'm sorry, with all due respect, what is the final? Manchester United against Tottenham. The 15th and the 16th in the Premier League table. So, of course, it's not better. And
I'm not saying, Frank,
and if you...
Frank, I'm not saying it is better. I'm just saying it's too complicated when you are a loser in one tournament, then you go into the other tournament. It's the same with Manchester United now. You go from the FA Cup, you're going into the Europa League, and then you go into the Champions League, and then Super Cup and Club World Cup and everything. It's too complicated. I like it when it's cleaner now. That's what my point.
No, I understand. But the question is, if it was a better competition, and I think it's not. It's maybe more attractive because they don't play with better teams than they are already involved, but it's not a better competition for me.
Okay, are you ready for this one, Stevie? Seeing as though this is from your personal assistant. Thoughts on the Premier League getting 6 teams in the Champions League next season? Crazy. Obviously, with the 2 Premier League teams making the Europa League final, that's what we're looking at.
Shouldn't be allowed. It's bad enough that 4 teams get in it. You shouldn't be allowed. 6 teams, no. I mean, it's just it's a contradiction in terms. It's not a Champions League. If you've got a team that was 6th in a league in the Champions League, I mean, no. I mean, it's just wrong.
Is he being grumpy, Jan?
Stevie.
No, he's not. Yeah,
sorry,
Frank,
Stevie. Was I right during the show saying that at the time where you were successful with Liverpool, only the first team were involved in the Champions League?
Yep. No. Only the winners of the league got into the European Cup,
and the reigning champion from the year before, because Nottingham Forest, remember that they qualified into there. No, but I think that's fair and call it a Champions League. I remember people were so against Super League. You remember that time? But we have a Super League. The Super League is called Champions League. I mean, that's how simple it is.
Yes, obviously, first time it's happened that there's going to be 6 teams from the same league in the Champions League. All right, what do you think has been the biggest difference maker for Anthony? League, location, manager, fellow players, team mindset? Jan?
I think everything. I think that is everything, which is a bit funny because he was so wanted by Ten Hag. So normally when you get to a club where the manager wants you big time, that you have a credit in the bank and you will normally do well. But, I mean, we also have to be, yes, we can respect what Anthony's doing, but it's much easier to play well for Real Betis than by Manchester United. And I'm with 2 boys today, one great player for Liverpool, one great player for Chelsea and for France. And these are big time players. So to play and do your performances for the bigger teams, much more attention, much more expectations, and maybe Anthony is better off playing with smaller clubs.
Stevie, does Ange deserve a statue at Spurs if he delivers the title as he usually does in the second season?
Well, if he doesn't, they might want to put one up so they can throw rotten tomatoes at it. Maybe that would help. I don't believe Ange is going to be getting a statue regardless. So I would suggest not.
Okay, we've touched on it, but we've not gone into it. I know we've talked about it before. If he gets them into the Champions League and wins this Europa League final, it's still fair game for him to be fired?
I don't think he will.
You don't think he will?
I don't think he will,
Because
no.
often the guys on the panel, maybe not you, have said it doesn't matter if he wins anyway, he's got to go.
Well, I think it's easy to say that, but if you're Tottenham and you're Daniel Levy, the guy's just delivered you a European trophy. The two don't go together. They just don't go together. You know, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different because it's a different club. If this was Manchester United and Ten Hag was still in charge, you could see
Exactly.
the possibility where even winning a Europa League, they would still get rid of him if they were in the position that they're in. But it's Spurs, who I can't even remember the last time they won a trophy, but it's going to be a European trophy, and then you're going to sack the manager. I just don't see how that happens. I don't see him getting sacked.
That cancels out where they are in the table in the Premier League.
I think it will.
Can you imagine that, Kay, that telephone call for Daniel Levy when he called Sir Jim Ratcliffe after they won the Europa League, and he say, listen, I need an advice here. You remember when you had Ten Hag winning the FA Cup? How were your analysis on that? Did you regret firing him, or should you just fire him the day after he won the FA Cup? And Sir Jim Ratcliffe say, thanks for your call, fire him.
Well, that's the parallel that's been brought up on the panel before, Frank.
But it's two different clubs.
It's two
That's
different
my
clubs,
point.
two different cups as well. But that has been brought
Yes.
up.
Yeah, but I always say winning another trophy outside of the Premier League can be the tree hiding the forest, is what we say in France. Because, you know, you get that and you say, okay, we were good. But no, you weren't good. Because the whole season long you were bad and you finished 16th. That's Spurs' result. So what do you want to do? How do you want to react? And they have the experience of Manchester United keeping Ten Hag where they were bad and they got worse. So
Well,
I don't know what it would be.
Let's go the ultimate,
The
Frank.
decision from
Frank, let's go the ultimate.
Okay.
The cup is what saved Alex Ferguson. So if Man United had got rid of Alex Ferguson, even though they won the cup,
Oh, so you're saying Ange Postecoglou is going to be the new Alex Ferguson?
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the ultimate in winning a cup keeps your job is Alex Ferguson. I mean, is there a more incredible one to put in front of you? That Postecoglou's in a position where if he wins a tournament, he keeps his job the same way that Alex Ferguson kept his job for winning the cup.
Sir Ange
I see
Postecoglou.
that point. Yeah, but I see that point. But it's a bit. Yeah, they hadn't won for 30 years. True. I think they won the FA Cup in the 70s, Manchester United. So that's true. But I think that you can't compare it one to one. I will even suggest that Amorim could be fired this summer also. So I will throw that into the Colosseum as well. I'm not sure that he will save this season, because you're right. A cup can, what did you say? A tree can hide the forest. What you said, Frank? I think that is a good expression.
Yeah.
Because you have to see improvement in the team, and one trophy as. I just won trophy of my life. I won the league in Norway. That's all I have done. So what do I suggest? But that doesn't have to tell you are on the right direction with your club winning a trophy like the Europa League or the FA Cup.
Okay. Speaking of trophies, Stevie, trophyless since 2020, Mikel Arteta. Why should Arsenal keep him in charge?
Ooh.
Come on, Stevie.
I mean, what is it, 5 years? I think he definitely deserves another season. And I think if they give him a centre forward, then that will be okay. We've given you all the pieces, because the squad has completely changed in the 5 years he's been there. They've given him the goalie he wanted, they've given him the back line he's wanted, they've given him the midfield he's wanted. Now they've got to give him the centre forward. And if they give him the centre forward and it doesn't happen, then I think it's fair enough that you say thanks very much. But I just don't think he's not there yet in terms of him not being in charge.
Oh, Frank, I have some backup tonight because I've got Jan here. Frank, what was the highlight of the FA Cup final win against Middlesbrough? Thanks.
That was the best of the best. You know, I was sad for you, but I'm very happy for myself. I mean, that was my first trophy. We talked about that yesterday. And I always put, that's very fair, that's very true. I always put at the same level having won the World Cup and that FA Cup final because of the memories of it, the craziness of the... Don't forget that Chelsea didn't win anything for like 25 or 26 years. So that was a great celebration and the party was absolutely fantastic. And the day after on Fulham Road, that was insane. 100,000 people, insane.
Must have been nice, eh, Jan?
Yeah, I was sold then, Kay. You know that I was playing in the early rounds, so of course we would have beaten Chelsea in the final if I was there. And the parade on Fulham Road. I was just thinking, imagine when Tottenham winning the Europa League and they will have the parade in North London and they will take another road into Arsenal. I was just thinking of that parade.
Yeah, it would also be nice for everybody to not bring that up anymore because we also lost the League Cup final that year and got relegated.
Oh yeah,
so
we did.
Sore
Oh my God! And you know what? You know what, Kay? There was something incredible. Robson was the coach,
yes.
And that was the last game of the season. So the relegation was already there. You lost the League Cup. And you played the FA Cup final, you lost, yeah. And that was crazy. He walked down the tunnel in front of the Middlesbrough fan. He had a standing ovation. That was insane. I never seen that. I said, what a club is that? What kind of fans that club has? That was amazing. And I was so impressed with the fans.
Yeah, I'll tell you what kind of club has those fans, the mighty Borough. Let's end it there then, shall we? Thank you so much for sending in your questions. Except for you, Gabriel Gomez, with that question, the last one. Make sure to join us tomorrow for more ESPN FC and Extra Time.